again. All right. So here we go. So we're going to start this all over again. We're going to start it from the top. What's everybody? It's me, Coach Kenya, and I'm here with someone very legendary today. This is, you know, an iconic, I would just put you in the iconic category when it comes to hip hop for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sitting here with Havoc, Mobb Deep. You got the 25th anniversary of the infamous.
Yes.
That's happening on the 25th, right? This 25th anniversary on April 25th?
Yep, the 25th anniversary on April 25th.
That's super dope. So tell me how that feels to have an album that is turning 25.
Oh man, it feels like surreal. It's like I almost can't believe it, like where did the years go? But at the same time, it feels good, you know what I mean, to be able to celebrate an album that kind of withstood the test of time, so to speak.
For sure, definitely for sure. And I kind of want to, before I get into the album and the details of the album and all the special things that are going to come with that release, I want to talk about how you got started in the game, because I read a story somewhere that you were standing outside a record label and you ran into a gentleman by the name of Q-Tip, and kind of history was made from there. So tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Well, the way that we got started, you know, me and Prodigy met back in high school in like 1989 in Manhattan in art design. We quickly became friends. Both realized that we had a passion for, you know, music, hip hop. So we started to make demos and stuff and things of that nature, and realized like, okay, how do we get a record deal? There wasn't no handbook for it or you know, whatever. So we would go look on the back of like album covers that was out at the time and go stand in front of those addresses of record labels. So one of the labels that we used to stand out of, or one of the buildings, was like Rush Management. So we stood out there. We met a gang of you know, celebrities at that time, you know what I mean, coming in and out of the building. Q-Tip was one of them, you know what I mean, amongst others. And, you know, we kind of clicked and bonded from there. Then we met another person and another person, and it just got us inside the building. And then, you know, it took a life of its own.
How did that feel, like getting in the building? Like, I mean, it's so random, right? You're outside and obviously you're out there with a purpose and you're trying to connect, but like, what did it feel like when it finally happened? Because that just doesn't happen every day.
You know, I was so young at the time, I didn't really see the significance of it, because we was going to get in that building one way or the other. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you know, to answer the question, when we finally did get inside the building to meet people, we was kind of like open. We was open, you know what I mean? A little starstruck. And we definitely didn't take that for granted. But, you know, it was work and all about business because we had an agenda.
Totally. And I get it, because I obviously work at the radio station, and there's people outside all the time. And, you know, one of the things I do try to do is if someone tries to give me some music, I definitely try to make sure that I can help in any way, shape, or form, because I know it's not easy, especially being an artist, especially in this day and age. I feel like it's very different.
Yeah.
So how would you compare starting as an artist back then versus starting as an artist now?
Oh man, the comparisons, the contrasts couldn't be more different, because back then there wasn't any internet to, you know, put your music to so a broader audience could listen to it. You had to be there right up and close and personal, you know, to get up on people. So the difference is basically, I would say, the internet, you know, because the internet is like, you know, a universe of another whole universe of things. So that was definitely one of the biggest differences, that you had to actually physically go to a location to try to get your music heard.
Sure, for sure. And then when things started taking off for you guys, like, you know, what was that momentum like as things started to build?
You know, as things started to build for us and take off, we started signing contracts, getting managers and lawyers. A whole new world for us, you know what I mean? I didn't know anything about anything. So to just be bombarded with all of these people, it just was, it was different, you know what I mean? Being young and uneducated in, you know, the music business. It was a good feeling though, to actually finally see your passion, your goal Coming Into Vision.
Coming Into Vision, yeah. And so the Infamous was the second album, right?
Yeah.
So what was that process like, building up to the Infamous in that release?
You talking about the Juvenile Hell or the
yes,
Infamous?
The Juvenile Hell first. What was like so there was the Juvenile Hell first, and then it was the Infamous. But like, what was that transition in between both albums?
Oh, the transition was it was kind of rocky a little bit. Emotions were high because the Juvenile Hell album was kind of a letdown, as our introduction into music, you know what I mean, and into the hip hop industry. So we didn't know really, what to do. So transitioning, being lucky enough to get another record deal, it just gave us a sense of, like urgency, like we needed to do this right this time around. You know what I mean? So the transition was made a little bit smooth by the A&Rs that we had around us at the time, like Scott Free, Matty C, and then to have somebody like Steve Rifkin as the head of the label that allowed us to be us and do what we wanted to do, made the transition a little bit smoother.
I can imagine.
Shout out to Steve, man.
Yeah, shout out to Steve Rifkin for sure.
Yeah, so, just kind of taking it back, what the creative process, I want to hear a little bit about, like, just when you were sitting there and you were putting together the Infamous, like, what was that creative process like? Who was in the room?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Well, half of it was like started in my house, in my apartment in the projects, in Queensbridge. So you could imagine how that atmosphere was. It was just a realistic vibe where, I would get all of my, inspiration from, where I would draw it from, which would in turn would make the music come out the way it did. And then, being in the studio, creating, having like 100 dudes of my friends in there. We all drinking, smoking, having fun, just happy to be out of the projects, you know what I mean? And creating this body of work. And with all of that going on, imagine trying to create something that we created through it all. So the process was, it's one of those processes that you can't plan, you know what I'm saying? You can't coordinate. It was just done.
So I guess when you were putting the album together and you're putting together the compilation of music, like, were there any songs on there that you were like, no, I know this is going to be a hit. I know this is going to be a banger?
I'm horrible at trying to decipher what song is dope and what's not. And that's the beauty of being in a group, because you have that other ear. Me, I could work on a beat forever until you peel me away from the drum machine. Like, it'll never be done in my eyes. So, a lot of times I wouldn't know what was a hit or not. You know what I mean? I think that would have kind of been cocky of me, you know what I mean? A little bit arrogant. Like I said, we was coming off of a big letdown. So that wasn't what I would call a confidence builder, So, I was just, happy that I was able to make anything, have friends around that had good ears, a partner, Prodigy, also who we would bounce ideas off of. So their feedback is what let me know that at least the song was all right.
Sure, for sure. And then Shook Ones was obviously a hit for y'all, a huge hit, and so relevant to the culture, to the point where I worked with Charlemagne at the station, and his whole Shook One, his book was inspired by that. So how does that make you feel, knowing that your work is still really inspiring the culture 25 years later?
To be totally honest, it's a really good feeling. You know what I mean? It still feels good, to be acknowledged that many years later still, because there's tons of artists out there that I believe deserve the same recognition. You know what I mean? Sometimes I feel like we don't get enough recognition. So just to see things like that we inspired, certain little things along the way, including something like, the title of Charlemagnes Book, is just, it's gratifying.
I'm sure. How does it feel for you? You know, obviously you're doing this media run and you're doing all these interviews for the anniversary of the album. I mean, it's got to feel a little bittersweet, just because Prodigy's not here. So how are you kind of coping with all that?
You know, I was asked that question, you know, before, and you hit it right on the nose. Like it is bittersweet, right? Like it's definitely gonna be an incomplete celebration, but at the same time, to honor him, you know what I mean, I have to try to celebrate to the fullest. You know what I mean? I mean, to, you know, what's going on today. We got the coronavirus, so we can't even really celebrate. I had to cancel a whole tour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even if the tour was still going, that would have been bittersweet. You understand? It's always going to be like that. So with that in mind, you have to celebrate in the fullest, right? You can't let that put a damper on it, because if the shoe were on the other foot, I'm sure he would do the same. So I'm just trying to do the best that I can to support the legacy and, you know, do interviews with people such as yourself that, you know, allow me to, the platform.
And listen, I appreciate that, you know, and I feel like, you know, even though people aren't with us, you know, in the present, I still feel like spiritually we're all connected. So I'm sure that he's very proud to have had the opportunity to work with you and to see your work come to this full fruition, you know, 25 years later, because that's a big deal. I mean, a lot of people don't last this game long. I mean, you know that, you know what I mean? You know, you come in and you could end up being like a one-hit wonder and a one and done, and you make your little money on the front end and then that's it. You know, but to sit here and to be celebrating 25 years later it's pretty commendable. And you know, that's dope. That's super dope.
Yeah. It's huge. You know what I mean? I don't take it for granted. You know, I look at it and I'm proud of it. You know, I'm just like sitting here, like mind racing in a million different directions, you know, thinking about then to now and all of the things that we've been through, and to be able to celebrate it is just a dope feeling.
Yeah, for sure. So when you had to look back at like the learning process, because we all learn things through all these experiences that we go through, right? Your first year in the business, or that first phase for you, what would you say is a gem or something that you learned that you were able to leverage later on as your career started to grow?
One of the things that I kind of learned, you know, through my journey from in my introduction into the hip hop business, was to really be in control of your creativity. That's like, you know, that's a do or die situation. I'd rather fail on the strength of my own than the strength of somebody else. You know, so, you know, early on, we had a lot of people in our ears, you know, pulling us in certain directions, and the body of work, you know, came out to be what it was. But then when we had full creative control, we were able to achieve more.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, that your creativity is everything, right? That's who you are as a being. And to be able to have the ownership of that is, yeah, it's kind of rare though, too, because I feel like sometimes you come into this business and you get boxed in because a label wants you to sound a certain way. They want you to have a certain look. And there's just all these restrictions where a lot of artists aren't allowed that creative liberty. So the fact that you all were able to come in and really tell your story there's something to be said about that. You were pretty fortunate.
Yeah, true indeed, because you could get caught up in the whole industry hype, right? Like these people, you know, they career workers. You could be a one-hit wonder. You know what I mean? They just looking for that hit. They don't care about your career. So, and you could get really enticed by that because they'll start showing you all the little bells and whistles and the shiny objects and say, look, man, don't you want to be here? Don't you want to be on TV? And then you start losing yourself. And then, you know,
and that's just, yeah, I mean, that's, you said something super important about losing yourself. So, you know, what advice would you give to somebody who is looking to become, you know, in this business and wants to rap or wants to do anything in related to entertainment? What would you give as far as helping people or somebody stay grounded? Because I think it's very easy to lose yourself, because I think this business can make you very superficial. It can make you start to focus on the wrong things.
Yeah.
So how have you been able to really keep yourself grounded and, you know, focused?
The way that I was able to keep myself grounded is that I always went by my gut. You know, I never let anybody else steer me wrong. I'd rather, you know, like I said earlier, I'd rather mess something up for myself because it was my decision than let somebody else mess it up. You know, because people don't really have your best interests at heart when it comes to a career. You know what I mean? They're not as invested as you are. You know what I mean? So, you know, my advice to anybody trying to come into the business is that always just go by your gut, because your gut is usually never wrong.
Right. You're so true. I mean, this is like my 15th year in this business, and I feel like my intuition and my gut check has grown, and my discernment has grown more and more every year as I experience different situations and different things, because everybody's not moving how you're moving, and everybody doesn't have good intentions. And there's a very small percentage of people that are willing to pay it forward, you know, and I've been blessed to have a very small circle of those people. But I'm telling you, well, you already know how it is out here.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And sometimes you have to learn the hard way.
You have to learn the hard way. And this is the one rule that I learned in the beginning. You know, people are happy for you as long as you ain't doing better than them. You know what I'm saying?
I gotta say amen to that.
It's kind of crazy, because I feel like, you know, especially for us, you know, we need to be more supportive of each other in this business, because, you know, there's a lot of us, but we don't do enough to help one another. So, you know, it just needs to be more, and it needs to be more reciprocal. And we can't be afraid because you feel like you're going to lose some kind of lane, or I feel like God has what he has for you, and can't nobody stop that. So if you're doing what you need to do, he's going to do his part, and what's for you is for you, and what's for somebody else is for them. And there's nothing that anybody can do to navigate that, you know?
No, not at all. You have to do you. You can't let other people do for you or think for you, because like you said, nobody really, not a lot of people have your best interests at heart. You know what I mean? When we first came in the game, when I look back, I think I say, man, there was a lot of people that came in the game before us, and I wish they had given us advice. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that moving forward that I want to do for artists coming in the game. Like, you know, start some kind of organization for like freshmen coming in the game. They might not think they need it, but, you know, anything from your creativity to accounting for your money, you know what I mean? Making sure your taxes and your business is taken care of, and you picking the right lawyers. You know, those things are important.
Man, it's so important. And I feel like you're onto something, because I feel like nobody is teaching, you know, especially these younger kids who are coming up in this game. It's like they're taking their advance money and they're buying chains, and and I'm like, seriously, like, it's like nobody's teaching that, you know. Right. And I think it's vital, because it's like you're given this opportunity, and that ain't free money. You know what I'm saying?
No, you got to pay that back.
You gotta pay that back, you know? So, and you have, I think, like, you know, and I had my days when I was young and I was like stupid with money and wasteful, we all
of course.
But at the end of the day, I feel like if someone comes along and is able to show you better, you're gonna do better. So I definitely think you're onto something as far as helping people.
Absolutely. You know, that's what it's about, you know, paying it forward. You know, look, like you said, we was all young at one time, you know, a freshman coming in the game, go ahead, get your little chain or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? But just stop there, like, you know what I mean? I know you have to have an image, but just put certain monies to the side. Okay, this is for my chain. Mm-hmm. This is for investment. Let's put that right there. You know what I'm saying?
Time, all that.
Yeah,
exactly. You know, because your image is your investment, right? But as long as you don't over invest in that, because that's not everything, right? You do have to look a certain way and stuff, things of that nature. But, you know, a lot of these artists, you know, they end up broke, and it's not funny. You know what I mean? You know, before you know, when I was younger, we used to laugh at people like that, but it's not funny. And I wouldn't laugh at any artist now that, you know, fell down in that kind of way.
Yeah, we just have to be, you know, better with resources. You know, when you're given an opportunity, the opportunity is great, but you just got to be purposeful in how you're moving out here, because you go broke real quick trying to be fly.
And that's it's the real truth, quiet. Man.
So I have another question for you, as far as like advice that you would give to somebody who is trying to get on in this game now. If you had to do it all over again, and this is my son's question, so I'm going to give him credit for this. If you had to do it all over again, would you have went with the label route, or would you have gone the indie route, knowing what the temperature is today in music and how things have changed? Yeah.
Totally 100%. I would have went the indie route first. You understand? Because then you have more leverage coming into the game. Like, and then if you want to decide to be on a label, you come in with more leverage. Absolutely. Totally.
Interesting. So, I mean, obviously there's a multitude of bad deals that get served up to people. What would you say, like, what are some ways that you could say somebody could avoid the pitfalls of getting into a really crappy situation when it comes to potentially dealing with a label?
Easy. All right, you have a lawyer. What you really want to know from your lawyer is the part that he don't read to you. That's the part that I wanted him to explain to me, not the part that he's explaining to me because he think I can understand it. Explain the parts that you're not reading to me, like about masters and percentages and things of that nature. You know, because when I came in the game, if I would have knew about masters and the ownership of them and me not owning them for a certain period of time, that would have been a non-starter for me. But nobody didn't explain it to me. And I have to take most of the blame because I didn't read the contract myself. I was letting it be explained to me. So I just can't go and be like, oh, you know, these guys are bloodsuckers. It was there in the contract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you hired a lawyer to read that to you at the same time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's definitely one of the pieces of advice I would give to, you know, a young artist coming into the game. Have your lawyer explain the pages that he's trying to skip by.
For sure.
Because you could be they can be giving you all that show money, but you're not going to be seeing nothing of the units that you're selling. You know what I mean? And they just pocketing all that.
And they take and that is absolutely correct. And through all of the what they call that flexing that you see nowadays, trust me when I tell you, in that contract, if they look like they flexing, imagine what the label's doing.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess too is like, and not being afraid to ask questions, right? Like I'm the first one to be like, if I don't understand something, I'm like, okay, because explain that to me like I'm two, because I don't know what any of that means, instead of signing your life away, you know?
Right, because I have this saying that, and you probably heard it before, the only stupid question is the question never asked. So you gotta ask questions.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and as many as you need to get to the understanding that you need. So
absolutely.
Well, this is super information. So I want to get back to the album because it's coming out, the anniversary special. It's a digital version that's going to come out, which is super dope. And there's a bunch of added things that are going to be a part of it. So there's the infamous sessions that I see here is going to be now available digitally for the first time.
Yep. Available for the first time, combined with the original infamous album.
Correct. And it's going to showcase a variety of rare mixes, alternate takes, unreleased tracks. So that's going to be super dope.
Yeah. You know, I'm excited about it. You know what I mean? Because I love listening to it myself. It's almost like its own mini time machine. You get to, you know, listen to what we was doing and back then, things that didn't make the cut, and how it sounded in its rawest form.
For sure. And then I saw in here too that there is going to be a vinyl version of it. That's also going to be released through Certified Classics Legacy Recording. So I love what they do with the classic albums, man. I think that's super dope. Actually, they gave me a nice bag of vinyls with Lauryn Hill's joint and a few other joints in there. And I'm so like, I feel it's so nostalgic, you know, to hold a vinyl, you know what I'm saying? And like, I don't know, I'm kind of geeky like that. Like, I just like those kind of things. So
shout out to Certified on that.
Yeah, shout out to Certified on that for sure.
Yeah.
So what else should we know about this celebration, about you, that you want to share? I think that you've made your mark in history. That's got to feel like something.
Yeah, it definitely feels good. It feels, you know, I'm at a loss for words. You know what I mean? It feels good. We're going to be doing, you know, as much as we can, given the situation that we in. You know, like I said, I had to cancel the tour, but you know, we're doing something with Caffeine to you know, go live, and I'm going to perform live, you know, on Caffeine for a few. Have a few of my contemporaries visit me while I'm on live on the page with me. Take you know, questions from fans, and yeah, you know, try to do the most with the celebration that we can.
Caffeine is also doing their stuff with URL on there too, right? URL's
yes, exactly.
Doing their stuff on there too.
Yep.
Shout out to Smack.
Yep.
What's a question that you get from fans? Like, what's the most, or that you've heard a lot? Like, what do people ask you?
You know, they ask me a lot. A question that I get from the fans: what's my like favorite song? You know what I mean? On like the Infamous album, they ask me things to that.
So what is it?
Oh, it's simple. It's Shook Ones.
Yeah.
Ones it's my most favorite song off the album. Yeah.
No, it's like, I mean, it's just, you can't ever hear that too many times. It's one of those tracks.
Yeah. Sometimes I can't believe that I made it. Like when I think back, you know what I mean? I'm like, damn, how did I do that? But you know.
Yeah,
well, that's like a staple track. I mean, I remember listening to that in the locker room for before a football game. You know what I'm saying? Just just rocking out to it. You know what I mean? Because it puts you, it puts you in a zone. You know what I mean? Like it gets you in a mentality that's just like, whoa. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that same zone that you felt was the zone that I was in. Exactly that zone when I was making it. Like that zone, you know what I mean? And it came through the beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and energetically, because you can feel it. Every time you hear it, you're just like, it just puts you in a real space.
Right.
Sure.
So, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, like, it has been a pleasure talking to you. You're such a humble human.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that so much because, you know, I meet a lot of people in this industry, and though I'm blessed to do that, not everybody is as nice. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And, you know, I would love to have you come back after this whole quarantine thing is over and we get to leave the house. I would love to set up a time for us to, you know, reconnect again and continue the conversation, because I like, you know, good people. I feel good energy from you. And I think it's important for people to continue to have these conversations to help one another. So I appreciate you very, very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the interview, and I look forward to the next dialogue for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So how can people connect with you? Give us your social handles and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, I'm simple. I got Instagram. It's Mobb Deep Havoc. Twitter's the same thing, Mobb Deep Havoc. Facebook, Havoc of Mobb Deep. And you know, tell all the fans thank you. Come check me out. Help me get my followers up.
Yeah, man.
And I see y'all there.
And get that digital download of the Infamous 25th anniversary.
Yeah, get the digital download. It's going to be, I believe, April 25th. Celebrate with us on Caffeine. And yeah, I'm just super excited. I'm happy and thankful.
Yeah, we're excited for you. So listen, thank you so much. God bless you. And we will definitely connect again.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate y'all.
Sure.
Y'all have a good one.
Same. Be well.
All right, now. You too.
Man.
No doubt. You already know.
All right.
Peace out. Take care.
Peace. All right.